feel like this is a place where iron sharpens iron.
I've noticed a huge change in my congregation over the past year.
It's changing people's lives. It's changing kingdom life.
This is the most incredible experience you will ever have in your life as a Christian.
Worship Leader Institute classes really start at a very beginning level, and they build up to a point where you really receive a full understanding of music, some music theory, history of worship, history of the church.
The phrase drinking from a fire hose comes to mind because it's been used over and over and over, and that's exactly what it feels like.
In the mornings, we have what's called holistic worship exercises, so whether it be, practicing our smiling or mic technique.
So let me just ask you, what is the easiest way to convey joy to somebody who you just met? You walk up to a stranger, what do? Smile. It's so easy, right?
One of the first principles that we learned was smile, because it exudes joy. That's really the key. It communicates joy. And we want our worship experiences to be joyful, to be celebrated. And as leaders, we demonstrate that non-verbally by smiling.
That's smiling. That's smiling. That's what I'm going to hear every time now.
And so we have to learn to smile. It's something we practice and learn, so we can implement that too.
Truth be told, they are not setting the tone. So if you want contagious joy, it's up to you. See, the part that's missing is you. We need you to bring the contagious joy.
They have what's called a joy medley, and there's 4 songs and then an amen chorus at the end.
Joy to the world, the Lord is come.
I've got the joy, 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 joy down in my heart.
The joy of the Lord will be my
And you have to go through each of those phrases while smiling.
Starting with the smile is easy. It's sustaining that smile. The most difficult part for me is always sustaining that smile. It's got to stay with you.
What they did is they videotaped us while we're doing the medley.
Joy to the world, the Lord is come.
We did it twice. First, we watched it with sound and kind of rated our smile and the joy that we exuded. And the second time, we did it without sound. And it's funny to see how much joy or lack of joy you show in just your facial expressions while you're singing.
Amen.
So having that video was very helpful to be able to look back and get automatic feedback about really what the audience sees as opposed to what I think they're seeing.
Joy to the world, the Lord is come. I've got the joy, 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 joy down in my heart. The joy of the Lord will be my strength. Come we that love the Lord, and let our joys be known.
So memorization was a problem.
There's an exercise where everybody sits and frowns at you until you make them smile. And there's an exercise where everybody goes half a beat and a whole beat slower than you go. And it's your job to bring them along.
I know the Lord liveth, and blessed be the rock, and let the God of my salvation be exalted.
And then in the afternoon, it's more sit-down classroom type lectures and discussions. We've had classes on worship planning and how you set the flow and bring everything together. Classes on personalities and resolving conflict. If you didn't have conflicts, you probably have complacency. And so the conflicts are good. The question is, how do you, in love, deal with them?
Mike Rogers talks about solfege and learning shape notes.
fall really well.
Jules Chesko, he teaches us about directing, keeping beat, and the different dynamics that we can use to draw different emotions and different atmospheres with our music.
1, 2, 3, cross the body, 4, 5, 6, right to the cross. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Softly and tenderly, Jesus is calling.
A major part that really makes this experience very special is the fact that you get a chance to practice. And you get a chance to practice with coaches watching you so that you can really improve and learn the skills that they're teaching in the classes. That's been very valuable.
It's a truly holistic approach to leading people's hearts to the throne of God.
Learning all of these things and trying to keep these plates spinning is the challenge, right? And so this takes a lot of skill.
I really get bogged down when I'm trying to do the exercises, and I'm thinking, I'm not smiling enough, or I'm not looking at the right people for the right amount of time. And
for somebody who has never had any musical training, everything's foreign to me, from directing to pitching to moving around the stage.
There's an analogy of plates that are spinning.
Spinning plates.
Plates on spinning. Keeping the plates spinning.
I think they're more like juggling chainsaws because you can actually get hurt. Nah, that's not true.
And breathing is not just important for singing, it's important for life. So yeah, we've got to get...
Everything has been a huge challenge for me, but I've just embraced it because I've noticed a huge change in my congregation over the past year. I see more life, more joy when people actually turn and sing to one another.
I'm hoping that when I come back and continue to practice, these skills become second nature, so that as I'm worshiping, I'm not having to worry about these things, but I know they're happening.
What's important is that we convey the joy of the Lord, that we preach the gospel with the songs that we sing. And if we're doing that and smiling, then, everything else, all the details sometimes don't matter.
It is exactly 11 o'clock, and it is time for lunch. And the church said, praise the Lord. All right, let's go downstairs. We're doing the flash mob at Chick-fil-A. Trickle in, and I don't think there's going to be room enough for everybody in there, so we'll see how this goes.
I want to talk about the flash mob that we experienced that's going viral on YouTube right now.
We all plan to go to Chick-fil-A and sit in various locations throughout the restaurant.
The entire institute basically filled up a Chick-fil-A, and then we start singing "Every Praise is to Our God."
Every praise is to our God. Every word of worship with one accord. Come on. Every praise is to our God. Sing hallelujah.
To literally just be sitting there and these guys just jump up and start singing. And the looks on people's faces were kind of like a mixture of, wow, that's really cool, or, whoa, what's happening here? But, as more and more guys started singing, you started looking around and you were seeing people who were not part of us starting to sing along as well. It was absolutely incredible. I mean, it's just amazing, the power of music and song, that you can just touch strangers. I mean, I understand there was a lady there with her family who started crying, and that really kind of lets you know how powerful this thing of music really is.
You can feel the Spirit of God moving in amongst people as we sing together, and it's such a powerful evangelistic tool that we can use.
Just going to give you one, a little beat here. Strike it. Okay, good, that's good. Now let's just do it a little softer.
I really was blessed by the worship assembly that we experienced at Madison. The building was full, and got these great worship leaders and great songs. And again, that's our objective, is to practice all the things that we're learning in the context of a worship assembly. And so that was a great experience for me.
The most rewarding thing is watching the other people in my group succeed. Watching people who came in with a beginning knowledge who within a week have transformed into a worship leader that is confident in what they're doing.
Something about Sunday morning, something about Sunday morning. Yeah, we're talking about Sunday morning. Sunday morning, talking about Sunday. Sunday morning, out and right and praying God. Sunday morning.
We had a remarkable experience led by John Mark Hicks, where he walked us through communion. The depth of why we do what we do when it comes to communing with each other and with Christ.
So much of the time, we focus on the death of Christ, and there's so many songs in our hymnals that are focused on that, and not so much on celebration, and not so much on resurrection, and not so much on the community aspect of what the Lord's Supper is. And so we were led in partaking of the Lord's Supper around a table with 7 other brothers.
The liturgy of the church, historically, that song is sung as a way of joining the chorus around the throne. And in joining that chorus, usually there is a remembrance of those whom we are joining. So at your table, just a brief name. Who is on your heart that you are joining?
In that time, we shared our struggles. We shared some names of people we've lost that we are excited to commune with. We shared some joys, some praises from the past year.
Made me look at the table and communion in a different light. Made me look at how it's not only about my relationship with God and me, making sure I'm right, but in fact, coming together and gathering around the table, and we're all communing one with another, partaking the bread, partaking the fruit of the vine, and pass it from hand to hand and say, this is for you.
It really felt like we were really communing with each other and with the Lord, and I think that's something that I've never really felt and experienced.
There were tears, you know. I mean, people just were crying and hugging on each other and loving on each other. Completely changed how I view the Lord's Supper.
We're going to start with Our God Is Alive, number 23.
You know that mic's not on right
now. Dave's not here, man. Okay.
You come in here and it's a week long and it's intense. It's boot camp is what it is. And so you leave here a band of brothers.
You spur each other on, you encourage each other, and that's been really neat because it's a little awkward smiling and staring at them while we're singing, and they're smiling right back at you because they know they're going to be doing the same exercise.
I love interacting with fellow Christians and being united in song.
To be able to have relationships with other men and for it to feel natural and not forced. And to be able to open up and to stand and pray and cry together. I think the fellowship is really, really something that's been absolutely incredible for me.
That's the part that I'm going to miss the most. Once we leave Worship Leader Institute, that personal interaction stops.
I've got brothers leaving this institute this year.
And every tongue acknowledge that Jesus Christ is Lord.
His glory is above earth and heaven.
We thank you and we praise you and we give you the glory and the honor.
Ek wil met u wees in u heiligheid om u mag en grootbaarheid te leer ken.
There was one comment that was made this morning which has stuck with me, and it's, you are not just a song starter.
It's so important to invest in your worship leaders. It's important for your worship leaders to invest in themselves. You may think you're doing it right, but you don't know what you're doing. I promise you.
You know, I came here thinking I was at a certain level of leading worship and realized I don't know nothing. You know, I literally have an empty book, and I've just been filled up the whole time I've been here.
Even if you are doing everything right, broaden your horizons. There are so many people here that have different ideas.
And you get some of their take on how they work within their congregation and how they interact with their ministry staff and their eldership. And you can bounce those things off each other and say, oh, that's a great idea. We could do that. Or here's how we address that. And so you share those experiences with people who are in the same situation that you are.
This shouldn't just be for worship leaders. This is a church leader experience. You gain so much information, whether it's history, whether it's technical information, whether it's technology.
The amount of things that we can now take back to our congregations and serve the church in a far better way, I think is absolutely invaluable.
His love brings into my heart of stone. Love brings to awake my bones. Love brings you not to save my soul. Love never gonna let me go. Love.
There is an awakening that's taking place with churches. We have worship leaders here from Brazil and Australia and South Africa, Guatemala, the UK. It's changing people's lives. It's changing kingdom life.
This is going to have an impact on the churches of every person that experiences this.
That's why any leader of any church should want to come to the Worship Leader Institute.
His love never gonna let me go.
That's going in.
No, it's not.
Are you recording?
His divine power has given us